I've found over the years that most people live their lives in what we call the comfort zone. Now, what exactly is this comfort zone? It's that place where everything is familiar. It's predictable. It's safe. It's where you don't have to stretch. You don't have to grow. You don't have to face the unknown. And I understand the appeal. We all like feeling comfortable. But here's what I've discovered after decades of studying success and human potential. Your comfort zone, while it feels good, is actually the greatest enemy to your future. It's killing your potential day by day, and most people don't even realize it's happening. Let me share something profound with you. Everything you want in life, everything you truly desire, is just outside your comfort zone. Everything. The income you want, the relationships you want, the body you want, the impact you want to make. It all exists outside of where you're comfortable right now. Now, isn't that interesting? The very place we resist going is precisely where all our dreams and aspirations are waiting for us. And that's not a coincidence. You see, life rewards courage, not comfort. Life rewards those willing to step into uncertainty with faith and determination. Life rewards growth, and growth only happens when we push beyond what's familiar. I often ask people in my seminars, how many of you want your life to be better 5 years from now than it is today? And of course, every hand goes up. But then I ask the more important question, what are you willing to change today to make that happen? And suddenly the room gets very quiet. You cannot become what you need to be by remaining what you are. That's worth writing down. You cannot become what you need to be by remaining what you are. Most people understand this intellectually, but they don't live it. They know they should expand their horizons, take some risks, learn new skills, meet new people, start that business, write that book, have that difficult conversation. But knowing and doing are two different worlds. Let me tell you about my friend John. John worked at the same company for 15 years. He had a decent job, made reasonable money, and was by all accounts comfortable. But every time we talk, he'd tell me about his dream of starting his own business. Year after year, the same conversation. He had ideas, he had passion. But he also had a mortgage, car payments, and what he called responsibilities. One day I said to him, John, your comfort zone is a beautiful prison. You've decorated it nicely, but it's still a prison. 6 months later, John took the leap. He started his business part-time while keeping his job. It wasn't easy. He worked evenings, weekends, holidays. But within 2 years, his business was thriving enough that he could leave his job. Today, he's earning 3 times what he made at his old company, and more importantly, he's alive with purpose and passion. What changed? John didn't suddenly get more talented. He didn't win the lottery. He simply made the decision that growth was more important than comfort, that his potential was worth pursuing, even if it meant facing fear and uncertainty. Now, some of you might be thinking, that's fine for John, but my situation is different. And you're right, your situation is unique, but the principles that govern success and growth are universal. They don't change based on your circumstances. Here's one of those principles. The pain of staying the same must become greater than the pain of change before you'll take action. Most people wait until life forces them out of their comfort zone through a crisis, a loss, or some major wake-up call. But why wait? Why not choose growth before life forces it upon you? I believe that one of the greatest gifts we have as human beings is our capacity for choice. At any moment, you can choose a different path. You can choose to face your fears. You can choose to develop new skills. You can choose to associate with different people. You can choose to commit to excellence rather than mediocrity. But these choices rarely feel comfortable at first, and that's exactly why most people don't make them. Imagine for a moment that you're standing at the edge of your comfort zone. It's like a circle around you. Inside that circle is everything familiar, your current habits, your current income, your current relationships, your current skills, your current identity. Outside that circle is everything you could become. The gap between these two circles is filled with fear, uncertainty, and the possibility of failure. But it's also filled with opportunity, growth, and the possibility of extraordinary success. The quality of your life will be determined by your willingness to cross that gap. Not once, not twice, but consistently throughout your life. Let me share something I've observed over decades. The size of your income rarely exceeds the size of your personal development. If you want your income to grow, you must grow. If you want your influence to grow, you must grow. If you want your happiness to grow, you must grow. And growth happens outside your comfort zone. It happens when you're willing to be a little uncomfortable today for a better tomorrow. Some of you might be wondering, but Jim, isn't there value in stability, in security? Absolutely. I'm not suggesting you be reckless or irresponsible. I'm talking about strategic discomfort, putting yourself in situations that stretch you in the direction of your goals and dreams. Security doesn't come from staying in your comfort zone. True security comes from your ability to create value, solve problems, and adapt to changing circumstances. And you develop those abilities by continually pushing your boundaries. You know, I've met thousands of people who let fear keep them in their comfort zone for years, even decades. And without exception, the regret of not trying eventually became more painful than any failure could have been. Don't let that be your story. Don't reach the end of your life with the painful knowledge that you lived far below your potential because you were unwilling to be uncomfortable. Here's a truth that has guided me throughout my life. For things to change, you must change. For things to get better, you must get better. And getting better requires stepping out of what's comfortable and familiar. Now, let's talk about some practical ways to expand your comfort zone, because understanding these principles is only the beginning. Application is where the magic happens. First, start small. You don't need to completely reinvent your life overnight. Begin by identifying one area where you've been too comfortable, too complacent. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your skills in your profession. Maybe it's your relationships. Choose one area and commit to taking one small step outside your comfort zone. If public speaking terrifies you, start by speaking up more in meetings. If you've been neglecting your health, start with a 10-minute walk each day. If you dream of writing a book, commit to writing just one page per day. Small steps lead to big changes when they're consistent. And each small step makes the next one easier because you're gradually expanding your comfort zone rather than trying to take a giant leap all at once. Second, surround yourself with growth-minded people. You've heard me say before, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If everyone around you is comfortable with mediocrity, with playing it safe, with settling for less than they're capable of, guess what? You'll likely do the same. But if you surround yourself with people who are constantly growing, learning, and pushing their own boundaries, you'll be inspired and challenged to do the same. Their courage will fuel your courage. I remember talking to a successful entrepreneur who told me something fascinating. He said, Jim, I don't actually enjoy networking events or conferences. I'm naturally introverted. But I go because the ideas and connections I gain there are worth the temporary discomfort. That's wisdom. He recognized that growth often requires doing things that don't feel natural or comfortable at first. Third, develop a growth mindset. Your beliefs about yourself and your abilities have enormous power. If you believe your talents and intelligence are fixed traits, you'll be less likely to push beyond your comfort zone. Why would you? If you think you can't improve, why try? But if you believe that your abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work, you'll be much more willing to embrace challenges and persist in the face of setbacks. How do you develop this growth mindset? Start by becoming aware of your self-talk. When you face a challenge, do you tell yourself, I can't do this or I can't do this yet? That one word, yet, makes all the difference. Also, redefine failure. In your comfort zone, failure is something to be avoided at all costs. Outside your comfort zone, failure is feedback. It's information. It's part of the learning process. Every successful person I've ever met has failed their way to success. I often share the story of a pottery teacher who divided his class into 2 groups. One group was told they would be graded solely on the quantity of work they produced, how many pots they could make. The other group was told they would be graded solely on the quality, they just needed to produce one perfect pot. At the end of the class, which group do you think produced the highest quality work? Surprisingly, it was the quantity group. Why? Because they were willing to fail. They made pot after pot, learning from each attempt, improving their skill with each failure. The quality group, so concerned with making one perfect pot, spent most of their time theorizing rather than practicing. The lesson is clear. Growth happens through action, not contemplation. And action outside your comfort zone inevitably involves some failure along the way. Fourth, attach a greater purpose to your growth. When the discomfort of pushing your boundaries is connected to a compelling why, you'll find the strength to continue when things get tough. If you're building a business, don't just focus on making money. Connect the goal to the freedom it will create for your family, the jobs it will provide for others, or the problems it will solve in the world. If you're improving your health, don't just focus on losing weight or looking better. Connect that goal to being able to play with your grandchildren someday, or setting an example for your kids, or having the energy to fulfill your life's purpose. A greater purpose transforms I have to into I get to. It changes obligation into opportunity. Fifth, practice discomfort. Make it a habit to do something that scares you every day. Something small that pushes you just beyond where you're comfortable. This daily practice builds your courage muscle. Just like physical exercise strengthens your body over time, these small acts of courage strengthen your ability to face bigger challenges when they come. I know a woman who was terrified of public speaking. Instead of avoiding it entirely, she joined a small local Toastmasters group. Every week, she put herself in a situation that made her uncomfortable. The first few times her voice shook, her hands trembled, and she could barely make it through her short speeches. But she kept showing up. Week after week, she faced her fear. Today, she's a highly paid keynote speaker who has addressed audiences of thousands. The fear didn't completely disappear. She still gets nervous before big presentations, but she learned to act despite the fear rather than being paralyzed by it. That's the secret. You don't need to eliminate fear to step outside your comfort zone. You just need to develop the habit of acting despite it. 6, celebrate your courage. We're quick to celebrate our achievements, but we should also celebrate our courage, those moments when we face our fears and push beyond what's comfortable. Did you have that difficult conversation you've been avoiding? Celebrate your courage. Did you try something new and fail? Celebrate your courage. Did you speak up when it would have been easier to stay silent? Celebrate your courage. By acknowledging and celebrating these moments, you're reinforcing the behaviors that lead to growth. You're telling yourself, this is who I am, someone who embraces discomfort for the sake of growth. Now, I want to address something important. Your comfort zone will always try to pull you back in. That's its nature. When you step outside of it, you'll feel the gravitational pull of the familiar, the safe, the known. This is where discipline comes in. Discipline is doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. It's pushing forward when everything in you wants to retreat to safety. Discipline is the bridge between your goals and accomplishments. Without it, you might occasionally venture outside your comfort zone, but you'll quickly retreat when things get difficult. With discipline, you can sustain the discomfort long enough to experience the growth and rewards that lie on the other side. And here's the beautiful thing, what was once outside your comfort zone eventually becomes part of it. The new skills you develop, the new environments you adapt to, the new challenges you learn to overcome, they all become familiar over time. Your comfort zone expands. But then what? Then you find new edges, new boundaries to push. Because growth is not a destination, it's a continuous journey. I want you to imagine something for a moment. Imagine that your comfort zone is like a small island in a vast ocean. On this island, you have everything you need for basic survival, shelter, food, water. It's safe, it's predictable, but it's also limited. Now imagine that scattered across this ocean are other islands, islands of opportunity, islands of growth, islands of extraordinary possibility. To reach them, you have to leave your comfortable island and sail into unknown waters. Some people never leave their island. They live and die in the same small territory, never experiencing the richness and abundance that exists beyond their shores. Others occasionally peek at the horizon, maybe even dip their toes in the water, but the fear of what might happen if they actually set sail keeps them tethered to the familiar. But there are some, and I hope you'll be among them, who build their boats, chart their course, and set sail despite their fears. They face storms. They encounter unexpected obstacles. Sometimes they have to change direction or even return to shore temporarily to regroup. But they keep venturing out. And what these explorers discover is that with each journey they become more skilled, more confident, more resilient. The waters that once seemed so threatening become navigable. The unknown becomes known. And the territories they can access expand dramatically. This is the gift of pushing beyond your comfort zone, not just the external rewards it brings, but who you become in the process. Let me tell you about a study that fascinated me. Researchers found that when people look back on their lives, they almost never regret the things they did, even if those things didn't work out as planned. What they regret are the things they didn't do, the chances they didn't take, the comfort zones they didn't push beyond. Don't let that be your story. Don't reach the end of your life with a list of what ifs and if onlys. Here's another powerful truth. Your comfort zone doesn't just limit you, it limits everyone who could benefit from your fully expressed gifts and talents. Think about that. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you're not just affecting your own life. You're affecting everyone who would have been impacted by the business you didn't start, the book you didn't write, the invention you didn't pursue, the love you didn't express, the cause you didn't champion. Your potential isn't just about you. It's about your contribution to the world. And that contribution gets stunted when you remain in your comfort zone. I want to address something else. Many people stay in their comfort zone because they're waiting. Waiting for the perfect time. Waiting until they have more knowledge. Waiting until they have more resources. Waiting until the fear subsides. But here's the truth. There is no perfect time. You will never have all the knowledge. You will never have all the resources, and the fear doesn't go away until you face it. The people who achieve extraordinary things aren't people who don't feel fear. They're people who feel the fear and do it anyway. They're people who start before they feel ready. They're people who recognize that conditions will never be perfect, so they make the most of the conditions that exist right now. As I've traveled the world talking to people about their dreams and what holds them back, I've noticed something interesting. The longer someone stays in their comfort zone, the more threatening the outside world seems. The more reasons they find to stay put, the more excuses they create. It's like a muscle that atrophies from lack of use. The less you push your boundaries, the harder it becomes to do so. The more you stay in your comfort zone, the smaller it gets. That's why it's so important to make discomfort a regular part of your life, not reckless discomfort, but strategic discomfort that moves you in the direction of your goals and dreams. Start today. Don't wait for motivation. Motivation is fickle. It comes and goes. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. I want to share a powerful question that has guided many of the successful people I've worked with over the years. When facing a decision, especially one that involves stepping outside their comfort zone, they ask themselves, what would the future me want me to do right now? The future you, the you that's living with the consequences of today's decisions, almost always wants you to choose growth over comfort. The future you understands that temporary discomfort is a small price to pay for long-term fulfillment and success. Listen to that voice. Honor that future version of yourself by making decisions today that they'll thank you for tomorrow. Now, I want to be clear about something. Stepping outside your comfort zone doesn't mean you'll never feel fear, uncertainty, or self-doubt again. Those emotions are part of the human experience. Even the most successful people in the world still feel them. The difference is that successful people have learned to act despite these emotions rather than being paralyzed by them. They've developed what I call emotional fitness, the ability to experience difficult emotions without letting those emotions dictate their behavior. How do you develop this emotional fitness? Through practice. Each time you feel fear and act anyway, you're building this muscle. Each time you feel doubt and move forward despite it, you're getting stronger. Each time you face uncertainty and take the next step anyway, you're developing this critical skill. It's like going to the gym. The first few workouts are painful. Your muscles ache. You feel awkward and out of place. But if you persist, it gets easier. Not because the weights get lighter, but because you get stronger. The same is true for pushing beyond your comfort zone. The challenges don't necessarily get smaller, but your capacity to handle them grows. I want to share another observation. People who consistently push beyond their comfort zone develop a certain quality, a quiet confidence that comes from knowing they can handle whatever life throws at them. Not because they have all the answers, but because they trust their ability to figure things out as they go. This confidence isn't loud or boastful. It's not about never making mistakes or never feeling uncertain. It's about knowing that even if you fail, even if you face setbacks, you have what it takes to get back up and try again. That's a profound form of security, far more reliable than the false security of never taking risks. And here's something else I've noticed. The most fulfilled people are those who are constantly growing. Not because they've reached some final destination, but because they're engaged in the process of becoming. They're alive to the adventure of pushing their limits and discovering new aspects of themselves in the world. Comfort might feel good temporarily, but it doesn't fulfill. Growth fulfills. Contribution fulfills. Making a difference fulfills. And all of these require stepping beyond what's comfortable and familiar. As we begin to wrap up our time together, I want to leave you with a challenge. Identify one area of your life where you've been too comfortable. Just one. Where have you been playing it safe? Where have you been settling for less than you're capable of? Where have you been allowing fear to make your decisions? Once you've identified that area, commit to taking one small step outside your comfort zone in the next 24 hours. Not next week. Not when you feel ready. What day? Within the next 24 hours. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Remember, we're talking about expanding your comfort zone, not obliterating it all at once. Small, consistent steps lead to remarkable results over time. Maybe it's making that phone call you've been avoiding. Maybe it's signing up for that class you've been thinking about. Maybe it's having that conversation you know you need to have. Maybe it's starting that project you've been putting off. Whatever it is, commit to it now. Set a specific time when you'll take that step. And then follow through regardless of how you feel in the moment. Because here's what I know for certain. On the other side of that step is growth. On the other side of that discomfort is expansion. On the other side of that fear is a stronger, more capable, more confident you. And that version of you, the one who's willing to be uncomfortable for the sake of growth, is the one who will create an extraordinary life. Not just a comfortable life, not just a decent life, an extraordinary life. You deserve that. The world deserves your fully expressed gifts and talents. But it won't happen automatically. It won't happen by staying where you are. It will only happen when you make the conscious choice to push beyond your comfort zone again and again throughout your life. Let me leave you with this thought. 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did do. So throw off the bowline, sail away from the safe harbor. Catch the trade winds in your sails. Your comfort zone is killing your potential, but only if you let it. The choice is yours. It always has been, and it always will be. Thank you for your time and attention today. Now go out there and take that first step beyond your comfort zone. The extraordinary life you're capable of living is waiting for you on the other side. Remember, for things to change, you must change. For things to get better, you must get better. And getting better begins with the decision to step beyond what's comfortable into the realm of what's possible. The greatest rewards in life come to those willing to do what the majority won't. The majority stay in their comfort zone. You don't have to be one of them. Your potential is too valuable to waste. Your gifts are too important to keep hidden. Your contribution is too needed to remain unexpressed. Step out, reach out, speak out, stand out. The world is waiting for the unique value that only you can create. And that value will only be realized when you make the decision that growth is more important than comfort. That contribution is more important than convenience. That your potential is more important than your present circumstances. Make that decision today, and then make it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next. That's how extraordinary lives are built, one uncomfortable step at a time. The comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there. Choose growth. Choose potential. Choose life. The future belongs to those who are willing to become more than they are today. Will you be one of them? I believe you will. And that belief isn't just optimism. It's based on the fact that you're here right now listening to these words, contemplating these ideas. That tells me you're already someone who values growth. Someone who understands, at least intuitively, that there's more in you than you're currently expressing. Someone who senses that comfort, while pleasant, isn't enough to satisfy the deeper hunger in your soul, the hunger to become all that you're capable of becoming. Honor that hunger. Respond to it. Let it pull you beyond the boundaries of what's familiar and comfortable into the territory of what's possible. Your comfort zone is killing your potential, but only if you let it continue. Starting today, you can make a different choice. You can choose growth over comfort, potential over safety, possibility over predictability. It won't always be easy, but I promise you this, it will always be worth it. Thank you.